Are you looking for the perfect gifts this holiday season that celebrate Detroit and Michigan? I know from personal experience that you can find something special for everyone on your list at CityBird. Unique, thoughtful, and local, CityBird has it all for anyone on your list. Imagine surprising your loved ones with their exclusive line of ceramic ornaments, beautifully designed to celebrate the things that make our area special, or classic engraved neighborhood rocks glasses with your choice of 60 Detroit neighborhoods for a touch of elegance. CityBird also offers a curated selection of jewelry, candles, home goods, and apparel by hundreds of local and independent makers. You can find that perfect gift for that special someone. And let me tell you, I know from personal experience, do not forget the card. And here, the cards are truly special. Visit CityBird today and make this holiday season truly memorable, not just by buying gifts, but enjoying the city while you do it. Located in Detroit at 460 West Canfield, between Cass and 2nd Avenues in Midtown, or online at citybirddetroit.com. That's citybirddetroit.com. Hey friend, welcome to your Daily Detroit. I'm Jer Stays. On this Monday, December 11th, 2023, lessons learned from running a bar and restaurant in downtown Detroit since 2005. When
Owen Burke
and his business partner,
Tony Piraino,
first ran a bar, the building they were leasing got demolished by the city. So they changed concepts, got a hold of a historic building in Greektown, and opened Firebird Tavern in 2013. 10 years in one concept is quite the accomplishment in their industry, and recently they expanded with a second location in Troy. In this honest conversation at the Daily Detroit studio at TechTown, we talk about the ups, the challenges, and a whole lot more. Before we get started, make sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows, and tell a friend about Daily Detroit. Let's jump into this conversation. A pair of owners are with us around the table and a bottle of Firebird 10-year anniversary Woodford Reserve. Buckle in, folks. Owen and Tony, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thank you very much.
For people who don't know, or those new to Detroit, let's start with the very beginning. Firebird Tavern, how'd this come together? It's in a very special building right there on Monroe.
It is. Building was built in 1885-ish. We found out a lot of this information. We were trying to name the place. We actually went to the library, the Burton Library, and did some research on the address on the building to try and see if it would help us even come up with a name for the bar and restaurant. It was initially built, half of the building, the front half of the building was built in 1885. It was a bar. It was owned by a saloon. It was owned by a woman, believe it or not, Mrs. Mickelson.
Elizabeth
Mickelson.
Why we don't have a cocktail named Elizabeth?
Man, I don't know either, man.
I'm angry about that.
Why didn't you figure that out earlier?
We're just expanding your to-do list already.
Thank you. Yeah. So we found that out. Then we found out once the automobile, it changed hands once or twice. Then the automobile kind of came on the scene in full force. It was an upholstery shop for maybe a decade or so. Yeah. Then it turned into, I think the Germans came in and then the Greeks came in. So it turned over a couple more times. It was a barber shop for the Greeks for a long time. And then it ended up going off record in the 70s. And then it popped back up in the 80s and opened as Maryland's on Monroe, like 1985.
I do remember that place,
yes,
actually.
You were telling me earlier that you have spent some time in there.
Yeah, I mean, every spot in Greektown, I feel like I've stopped at one point or another.
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Intimately.
So, Maryland's was open for about 30 years, 25 years. We opened our first bar, Pulse, in 2005.
I do remember that one.
You remember that?
That was over in the garage that's now gone. That's going to be part of the Monroe Blocks thing. Yeah.
Yes,
Did
right
you know
next
that we
to
did
the...
that?
I feel like I was told that, but I'm pretty sure I didn't remember it at the time.
It's all right. That was, cocktails, martinis in 2005. I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but I think we were obviously a little ahead of the time, about 15 years. Which is a generation and a half.
I used to meet friends up there, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is great that they have all these cocktails, whatever." Funnily enough, smallest town in the world, Jeanette Pierce.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Met up over there, and other friends too. Yeah. But it's kind of like the class of ye old Detroiters.
Yes.
Kind of that 2000s generation.
Jeanette started her company there.
Okay,
and then Carrie Dolman, who did After 5, started her company there.
We just saw her yesterday at the CBS thing. She was in there doing a segment before we.
Yeah. Of course she was. Yeah. Yep. They would steal our Wi-Fi, drink coffee.
Yeah.
and then have a cocktail when they're done.
Every now and again, have some cocktails.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to the original question. What was the original question? How'd this thing start? Yeah.
Really, you're an entrepreneurship incubator, as any good bar is.
Yes, right. So 2005, we opened up Pulse. We ran that, both of us, kind of half and half. We ran that until 2012. The city came by and said, we're knocking the building down, make way for bigger and better.
Here's a check. Get out. You filthy animals.
Fraction on a dollar of what we owe because we still had some time left on our lease. And Tone found Maryland's somehow through the back channels, the way stuff gets done in Detroit.
Yeah, this is kind of before Facebook Marketplace, right?
We had an inside track with a guy that got us a meeting with the building owner. And about 5 months later, we signed a lease and got it going. We opened up in 2013, right? Yeah, 2013, August 23rd, yeah.
And I do want to talk more about Greektown, a little bit of history, but I do want to mention, and we talked about a little bit on the show, we were up at your new suburban location. So you're kind of expanding your wings. And yes, that's a pun.
I'll drink to that. Cheers.
Yes, we've plunged into our second location with no parachute, head first.
Why do a second location?
Well, that's a fine question. But the easy answer is we've been doing this since 2005. It's kind of been something that we've wanted to try to ensure that we understand what we're doing from a business perspective, challenge ourselves a little bit. It's been since 2005. And if we're going to do this thing, we're not 20 anymore. Let's if it's not now, let's go invest in toothpicks or let's go do something else.
I think COVID also, it was hard for everybody, but being in this specific industry was especially difficult. We kind of got tossed aside as an industry. And I think seeing how well I think our colleagues in the suburbs were doing, or I shouldn't say well, I should say better, than we were doing, kind of everybody down in the city center. We're like, God, we really need to diversify probably out of the city and see if we can get some suburb money instead of just relying on Detroit. Because we looked at 5 or 6 other places before we landed on Troy over the past 6 or 7 years.
They were all downtown.
And they were all downtown.
We had no desire to go out there. I mean, that wasn't...
Just kind of happened. But I think COVID really expanded our scope or our aperture for finding another location. And it just so happened to work that we landed in Troy.
You're not the first entrepreneurs to tell me that COVID, it really shrunk where people go, especially with the elimination of going into the workplace, which frankly, I know for a fact has not recovered anywhere since. What about for your business and that side of your business?
Same.
No, not at all. I think the statistic before COVID was 70 to 80,000 people a day were commuting into Detroit to go to work. I'm going to take a guess just by what I see on the street that it's probably 25 or 30 now. We almost we're back to like 2008. And
wow.
It's tough because I think most city centers across the country are built on business and not so much on residential, at least the majority of it. And Detroit is very heavy business.
Especially in the Greektown district, right? Where there's not a lot of density as far as
apartments,
homes,
condos,
the ability to live, condos, lofts, whatever.
I feel like this is one where there needs to be a little bit, even more vision. Yes, there is a new building near you, but one building does not make a neighborhood, right?
No, it certainly doesn't.
It's a start. You got to start somewhere. So the exchange that opened up right behind us is a very good start. Obviously, the Hudson's building is going to open in about another year. They've changed their schematic of what they want in the building 5 times. So we'll see what happens there. But like Orleans Landing downtown over on Jefferson, I know that is far away, but it still helps. They still need services. They still need places to go. And it's coming. It's just COVID just stopped it in its tracks. And I think everybody's trying to do what they can to get this momentum back. It was almost the city was working half as hard and gaining twice as much momentum before COVID. Now they're working twice as hard and gaining half the momentum as before. Again, it's we're stuck back pre-bankruptcy right now to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. It's coming.
That answers the root question. of like why we went to Detroit, right? Like if you think about it, that explanation kind of dives deep into it, especially the Greektown district where people are starting to move. But 3 years ago, when COVID hit, if we weren't going to work, if you weren't going to a ball game, if you weren't going to any municipal building downtown, if you weren't going to a trade show at
Huntington
I think it's
Place
Huntington Center now. Yeah.
Huntington Center, right? And if you weren't going to any plays or operas or anything, it turns out you really had no reason to go to that particular area unless you were really hardcore friends and family of the establishments. And that's the kind of thing that was like, okay, maybe we need to get our eggs out of this basket.
Multiple baskets, yeah.
So we can take a hit if we have to. If some hits the fan again.
What do you think about some of the plans to more pedestrianize Monroe, to make it more flexible, kind of remove the curbs? We talked about a little bit on the show. I'll link in the show notes to it. But
yeah, how do you know that, by the way?
It was in the Greektown preservation notes or something. You know, I'm a reporter. I keep my notes to the ground. Huh?
There was a press conference about a year ago. I think after the study came out, we all popped in a bunch of money to get a study done by some famous urban planning company out of Chicago. They did a great job. If half of the stuff comes to fruition that they have in this beautiful plan, that's about 1.5 inches thick, I think we'll all be extremely excited about it.
And I say we, that the district got awarded a $20 million plus endowment to do all these funds. So I don't know if, for the first time, I don't know if money will necessarily be the yay, nay on this. It'll just be come to a consensus of what it is, the vision.
And then getting it done. I think they're going to plan it, the 375 fill in. I think they're trying to coordinate doing it at the same time, even though they're two very separate projects.
So we don't have 3
So they're not like 3 years of
emptiness
for the 375 project, and then you've got another 2 years. That's like 5 years total. I don't know any business that can survive like 5 years of.
Well, and that I-375 project timeline feels a little bit slippery right now with how businesses are going too, or how the communities are reacting to it.
Yeah, they don't like it.
Especially with connections to Lafayette Park and all that other kind of stuff. And obviously you're not in the position to make that judgment of when that would happen, but I think to me reinforces how important it is to focus that there's going to be so many other impacts with these sorts of things,
That's right.
Yeah, collateral damage, if you want to call it that. I think all you need to do is look at the Avenue of Fashion, and when they beautified that street, how many businesses kind of tried to hold out, but they ended up just closing. And it's beautiful now, but man, the businesses before that kind of paid the ultimate price of having to close because you couldn't get there, you couldn't park. It was just construction everywhere. It was very difficult to try and support those businesses. So I hope that doesn't happen downtown. But I think since it's a state highway instead of 7 Mile, I think it might be a little bit different. And I think they'll have nice detours around that will help people try and navigate going to a football game, baseball game, all that stuff.
So my mouth. That's
it'll be a little change in the beginning,
if you will, goes to us because proximity to things and stuff, games, entertainment, trade shows, everything downtown is 5-block radius of Greektown.
Running Pulse, running this, now been in the game for a while. We've seen so many bars come, go, restaurants, whatever. You're one of the stalwarts. What's been some of the differences for you? What have you learned to stay open and, kind of make things go?
It's us. And I'm not saying we're awesome, but that's not what I mean. But it's our ability to read the street, to read the people, to read who's coming in, cater both our menu and everything we do from a staff perspective, training people. This is what to expect, right? Like, this is who we are. These are our values. This is what we want to be done. And I think that resonates. I think you can see that. You can feel it. You can taste it. It's that thing that you may not be able to quantify, but it just comes through when you're in the building. You're like, yeah, I'm just feeling good in here. I can't figure it out.
And I sense, at least from this conversation, there's a lot of ups and downs in business.
Very much so.
Especially with that lack of residential density right now.
Very much so.
How are you going to work to combat that in the next few years from your perspective? Or is it more marketing? Is it more, reach out? Is it, obviously you're very involved in the community and the community groups nearby, but, what helps get you through all that?
I think you got to execute on a daily basis. It's the hardest thing, but it's the thing that sustains you. If your food is garbage, if your service is garbage, I can get a Bud Light anywhere.
Turns out they bring it right to you.
Yeah.
At a variety of
They just a truck just brings it to you.
Why am I going to your place for a Bud Light? It's got to be something else. You got to have an emotional connection to places. I think that's why Irish pubs are so successful, because you go in there, it feels good, and it's hospitality is part of kind of the Irish culture, being half Irish and going to a lot of Irish pubs. You just feel good in there. And I think we're trying to replicate that without pigeonholing ourselves into being an Irish pub. But the hardest thing to do in this business is to keep your foot on the gas and having like constant gentle pressure on all parts of your business, and trying to make sure that you don't get ahead of yourself or fall behind, and just keep focus on what you do. And every guest that comes in the door is important. And if it's lunchtime or 12 o'clock at night on a weekend and you're serving, vodka sodas and Jameson as fast as you can, they're still important. And that's the hardest part about this business. Being opening and being the shiny new toy is easy. And then after month 6, month 8, 2 years, that's when the real work starts, where you got to be creative, how to get people in here. You got to do quizzo on certain days, happy hour. You got to just be, and then when they come in the door, you spend all that effort getting them in the door. And then if you provide them with cold food and bad service, what are you doing? So you got to provide them. That's part of it, marketing. And then when you get them in there, you got to take care of them.
Our staff is fantastic. They average like 3.5 years per bartender, server, front of house, back of house. So it turns out we're doing something right from an environment perspective. And having those people that when you walk in, even if we'll call you Lion guy, right? You come in for Lions games and it's just, hey, just that little thing. Just makes you feel special inside, right? And we do that very well.
But it's good to hear that you're focusing kind of on keeping and holding on to that staff, because if anything with these newer places I hear about, it's like, oh, I can't staff, or you'll see people shut down certain nights or all these other things because they can't find people. And that's a thing, but it seems like you've figured out some ways to mitigate that, right? There's some things always out of your control, but mitigate it.
You try and control the things you can control, not to make a sports analogy, but you try and do that, number one. And then the talent, it's not that people don't want to work. The pool of people moved from like the size of a large pizza to a small pizza. They just left.
And a bunch of people on the older side retired early, things like that. And that has ripple effects all the way down. People don't realize that.
Very much so. We're only now starting to see, when you put out an ad for a job, we get more people even just applying, whereas the past 3 years were like pulling teeth. But they just left. They said, I'm done. This is the perfect excuse for me to try something else. I've been waiting for something. I never had the time to do it. They got $600 a week extra from Grandpa Joe. And they were able to go back to school, go be go to like Northwestern Tech. You're like, just leave. So the pool of people you're pulling from, it's just a lot smaller now. Yeah. And it's not that they don't want to work. I don't like the people that we hire. They all want to work, man. They're no problem. There's just a lot less of them now. And there's quite a few restaurants that closed, but we've had quite a few restaurants that have opened as well. So you may have net, you may have the same number of restaurants down here, but we're pulling from a much smaller talent pool. So I think the words or the phrase "nobody wants to work" is probably a little. I'm not calling you out, but everybody uses it. But I think it's like there's just a lot less people to pull from.
Plus, our street cred is good. I think that's the way.
Because you look like the kind of fellow with street cred.
Yeah, right.
Glasses and a hoodie. Yep.
But employees talk, right? I know for a fact that we've got a decent name out there, and like these guys actually care about their staff. I mean, they go there. If you're going to go work there, I highly recommend it. That kind of thing.
Can't please everybody, but we try.
Well, Detroit's the biggest small town you'll ever meet, and hospitality is even smaller, right? It's a subset of a subset in a lot of ways.
Right.
So what are some of the changes you've seen in Greektown in the last, few years? What are some of the biggest changes you've seen since you started till now?
I've seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I've seen literally everything. Pick it. random depths in the back of your brain. I've seen it. I've had it in the bar. We've seen it. We've talked about it. We've seen mayors come and go. We've seen '08 recessions. We've seen COVID.
Super Bowl. All-Star game.
We've seen all of these ebbs and flows, and whoa, how are you going to get out of this? To a last couple years where not just Detroit, every large city, Chicago, New York, LA, all kind of had similar issues during COVID, and people had nowhere to flip and go. So they went downtown and just acted a fool, right? So we've seen that. Now we're seeing the cleanup of that.
Do you think that some of the recent headlines in the last few years about the neighborhood are maybe in part attributed to that, where they just come down and act stupid?
I contributed to, and I know because I was out there and I've talked to the police and I've talked to these crazy kids, right? They had nowhere to go, like literally nowhere to go. They had the house or that's it, because everything was closed. So you're longing to be with peers or to interact some way and socially, whether it's clearly wasn't great and poor choices were made, but what else were they going to do?
Well, and I would note that a lot of those kids came from, and young adults came from all over the region. You know, people will say that it's just the city, but reading the reports, going and diving into it, what I really realized was we really have a structural problem with like stuff to do for young adults, you know, because a lot of these folks were before the age that they could be patrons of a lot of the establishments there, right? Yeah, and so there is an overall issue with giving these kids things to do, because kids they need things to do, or else they're going to go nuts. I mean, I was that age one time.
Agree. I think it's at nighttime as well, because the parks close now, and for many decades, beautiful skate park at Riverside closed at 10. Belle Isle closed at 10 o'clock now, and it's the state police that are taking this over. So they kick everybody off Belle Isle, and that's it was a big hangout for decades, places to go, things to do. That's not an option anymore. So even Campus Martius, it's got posted hours. It's park. It's closed. They have security. Cadillac Square, same thing. Beacon Park, same thing. Riverwalk closed at 10. What's not closed? Greektown Strip.
And there's a bunch of lights and there's stuff.
There's stuff to do. There's music going on. There's people. There's activity.
Things and stuff.
It's vibrant, and it's a public road and public sidewalks. You don't shut that down. So naturally, that's where people kind of gravitated towards. And I got to tell you, the stakeholders in the district, I'll call them out, they know it, didn't help much by opening up windows and garage doors and putting speakers in the window and blaring it outside and contributing to a little bit to the mayhem, instead of trying to keep the party inside your place, instead of allowing them to just hang out in the street and party in the street, because they got music and fun and lights, and they get to see people hanging out of the windows.
And who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't want that?
And frankly, we don't have enough neighborhoods. Not that I think that, Greektown is alone, but we really don't have that many strips or blocks in Detroit and Metro Detroit that have that kind of street life. Like I think about when I go even to cities like Memphis or whatever, there's streets, Beale Street, but there's blocks with an S, and Greektown's a few blocks, but there are no real other alternatives if you want something that's got like a lot of things happening.
Vibrancy. Yep.
So you mentioned Super Bowl and some things like that. Let's talk about how important those kind of events are. I think specifically the NFL draft, less than 150 days away. How big of a deal is this for businesses like yours?
It's mammoth. And example, McNaught and McKay, I'll call them out. They're a sponsor now for us. They're going to hold an event there, local. We actually, how do I say this? We turned away some bigger names, large companies globally, to go with a local company that still is spending a good amount of money. Let's not get crazy here. But now we have a strategic partnership with these people in McNaught and McKay, and they're going to do stuff in Troy, and they're going to do stuff here for other things and stuff. So it is economically, I think it will save some places, and then it will boost everything else.
Really? It's to the point for some places you think it'll save them?
It will pay off a lot of bills, past bills, if they have past bills.
Yeah.
We know that because we did this every year. at Pulse when we were
2009.
open. Yep.
I still. That's why I'm a State fan, because when they came to the Final
Four. Yep.
If you remember, coming off of 07 and 08 and that recession, and they started that smoking
Smoky
ban
ban.
was in 08, and it's just like, oh my God, we're getting punched in the
Punch from all
face.
directions. Yeah.
People stopped going to bars and restaurants because you couldn't smoke. Like, okay, well,
That really was the culture back then. I remember.
oh, for sure was.
Yep. Cigars.
Even if you didn't,
cigarettes,
even
yeah.
if you weren't a smoker, you just kind of maybe you had one, or you tolerated him smoking one, ripping one right next to you, right? Like, so economically, I don't know if you listen to everything that I've been to, every meeting that I've been to, it's supposed to be bigger than the Super Bowl based on, because it's the length of time when they get to town, and then 3 days of actual draft. So this should be an opening day that month. April should be a banner month for Detroit.
I bet. You know, the NFL was a big deal back then, but it's even bigger now. I feel like in the intervening 10, 12, oh my gosh, it's almost 20 years since the Super Bowl.
18 years.
18 years. The NFL has become the sport in a lot of ways, guys.
Oh, sure. It's king. It's king, no question.
It is. This NFL draft is going to be bigger than most people. It doesn't have the glitz and glamour that the Super Bowl does, but economically, I think
instead of pulling from 2 teams, you pull from 32.
You pull from 32 teams.
And Detroit proximity?
They get in on Tuesday.
We got like 5 or 6 teams that are drivable within a 4-hour, 5-hour window. That's huge.
You get in on Tuesday, they're not leaving till Sunday or Monday. And there's just tons of corporate money.
Is there something that you would, I don't know if you're in the position to give this advice, but is there something that you would tell somebody starting a business?
I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night.
Is there something that you would tell somebody else that they're going to start something in Detroit or Metro Detroit, because you've got the thing in Troy now? Is there something that you would tell them, a piece of advice, something like that from your experiences?
As far as opening a bar or restaurant?
Yeah, opening a bar, opening a restaurant, dealing with folks, dealing with the city, anything.
Don't do
name
it. And I say that in jest, and I'll explain. That's what every single person we spoke to, either professionally, financially, from a bank, friends, aunts, grandmas, whoever, like, what are you doing? So I think if you want to own a bar or restaurant, I think it needs to be innate in you, and it's something that you truly, truly enjoy. Because I don't know if you don't enjoy the grind. I guess every business probably has its grind, but our hours are sometimes difficult. We've got a great management staff, but you got to love what you're doing. So that's what I would tell somebody. If you're just kind of thinking about doing it, like, yeah, let's get my boys together and let's open a bar.
I don't know
I would
why.
say get the hell out of here and go grow up and go do something else. But if it's something you have some passion behind you and you like what you're doing, like, yeah, then let's sit down and talk. And I think we would sit down for 4 days straight, then not shut up about how to be successful.
I don't know what's so attractive about this business. I think they watch too much television or
Bar rescue?
or bar.
It's so sexy.
But I don't get it. It's so demanding and so it's difficult, and you have to, like, cooking food is just like one aspect. You got to cook food, take care of stuff. You got to know building maintenance. You have to know QuickBooks, accounting, marketing, HR. You're not just like, oh, I'm going to open up a bar and I'm going to pay somebody to do it. That's not how it works, man. You kind of have to know all this stuff. And if you don't know it, you have to learn it. And when you learn it, it costs you money. And how much money do you have to learn this stuff? And most people open with $17 in the bank because they spent it on beautiful chairs and tables. So
I was joking the other day with somebody that the difference between somebody
We had
who's
19, to be fair.
the difference between a veteran and a new business owner is whether or not they buy new furniture or they get it all used or Facebook Marketplace or something.
yeah,
Because it's easy to get caught up in I want the new chair or the new you name it for anything. But at the end of the day, you're there to do a job, and what gets the job done, and what can you work or what can you buy and then zhuzh and do whatever to make it the next level,
correct. Yep. There's a lot of that.
I need ADD too. I really do. Because some days I'm a plumber, right? And then some days we're sitting in a bank having to do some things and stuff. Next day I'm an electrician. And next day I'm at the city
Yeah.
Being
They're great. The
being
city's
political.
great. The
Yeah,
city
the city's
Detroit's
great.
great
Love
to
Troy.
work with. Love them. Love them. Shout out to City Detroit.
As the Jeopardy theme plays.
Yeah.
Someone has not been to your location, and I don't know why not, but if someone hasn't, what's the first thing they do? Order?
What are you doing? Are you going to a concert? Are you going to a game? Or is it Tuesday and you're in town?
Well, sometimes it's Tuesday and I'm in town for me, but
Sometimes those don't matter.
well, yeah. That's just about a good time, right?
Right.
Like one of my favorite Tuesday bars in the middle of the day is like a temple bar or something like that. Something nice and
Goodness.
right,
Oh, boy.
right. The bar that
Okay.
has two personalities.
It certainly
Right.
does.
During the day, it's that kind of like wander in bar, and then at night, dance party.
Boom.
And yeah, there's different gears, and you have to make sure your gearbox has all of them if you're going to try to do that place.
I prefer those Bronx bars, kind of the same. You can go in,
That's right.
shoot a little bit of pool, and then at nighttime, it's like you're drinking, slugging them back, playing music in the jukebox.
Yeah.
It's fun. So I'm
people.
with you on that.
That's fantastic. Golly, is that great.
I think we take a lot of pride in our food. I think any good restaurant or bar has got to have decent food,
Yeah.
respectable food. We're not setting any culinary trends by any means, but I think when you come in there, I think at the end of the day, you'll go in there and say, wow, that was great. And you may have walked in saying, I don't know what to expect. So I think under promising and over delivering has been our mantra since the day we opened.
So is.
So food items, I mean, you're looking at, we make our own beer cheese. So anything you get with beer cheese, we pay attention to things like the Philly. We get the bun from the Amoroso Bakery in Philly. We buy nice sirloin. Like, I think we buy just quality products and we put them together nicely. We go and obviously go get our own Woodford. We've been great
make a
partners with Brown
proprietary for
Foreman.
There's also a double barrel reposado here as
Yes, that was
We're gonna
new
go
to
pick
us
that
a
out.
few years ago. We again, Brown Foreman's been a great partner with us since about 7, 8 years now. And they said, we also have tequila. Would you like to come down and pick a barrel of tequila? In about 0.5 of a second, we said, yeah, that sounds cool. Go down to Jalisco and pick a barrel of tequila. Yeah, cool.
I can see your eyes lighting up right
Yes,
now. I'm like,
yeah.
this is a good answer for you.
Yep. We
We do a lot for our customers.
That's our second one. Yeah, it was a lot of hard work going down there for a few days. I mean,
Both of these locations. We have to take
locations.
multiple
Yep.
trips.
Sacrifices.
Sacrifices,
yes.
for our guests. So number 2, we picked it out. We go down there once a year. So these are the two things that are kind of unique to us. Small, handcrafted cocktail menu, 4 or 5 drinks. What we do well. So Gordon Ramsay, you don't do 1,000 things, do very few things and do them well. And I think that allows us to maintain consistency as well.
No, well, without question.
And you all do have a lot of experience handling the high volume, that if you're coming down here for a show or for a game or something like that, you can get in there, have a good time, but you clearly already know in your souls that when game time hits, or they got to be out the door, or all those other things. So that's a really good thing, because sometimes people slip up on that one where they forget that, oh, there's a theater show, or oh, there's a whatever. And there's some places where I'll literally be like, listen, I have a thing at X, just to make sure that they're aware, because I want to spend money, but also I got to be a place. I don't want to be waiting for my check an hour after a show starts.
That's where staff comes in.
That took one Lions game, Tom.
That's where that's
That took one Lions game. So from the first year we opened, the first Lions game, we tried to do the whole menu on both floors, and it was an epic failure. So by the second game, we had a buffet up. I mean, we did all kinds of stuff. Now we just have a game day or an event day menu. That's just our menu pared down to about 10 things, 9 things. And we're able to execute these things fairly well on both floors. We can have 180 people in there all wanting to eat, and we can just crank out food, no problem. But it takes time, and you have to be there to learn these things, to then pivot, check your pride at the door, and then just do what's best for the guest. I think if you have those things in your brain as an owner and operator, I think you'll be fine in this business. But you always have to have the guest in mind and how to execute timely and consistently.
That's why our staff's fantastic. Like, that's a skill set, right? That's not just training and we can, we're beating them in the head. No, this is a skill set where you can do this on a Tuesday and make great cocktails and have great conversation. But on a line game, you're dealing cards. And it's just, hey, let's go.
Yeah, don't be that guy who orders like a 5-ingredient cocktail on Lion's Day, Like
there's that guy.
There's always that guy.
Yeah.
I believe engineer
And
Randy
she-
is that guy.
he and
Jared,
she are
don't
both
be
there.
that guy, bud. Okay?
Yeah. He and she are always there, and it's okay. They'll do it and throw it at you. It's great.
The last time I was upstairs, it was for a private event. Is that kind of how you're still doing your 2 floors?
By and large, from a occupancy perspective, every Friday and Saturday we open it up to the public at 9, 10 o'clock for DJs, and we have karaoke on Saturday now in Detroit. But our event manager, Jenna, she books that thing up pretty good. And I would say we average 3 events a week.
It grew tremendously. Tony did it in the beginning when we first opened. Just answer the phone. All you got to do is just answer the phone. And then it got to a point where like, oh my God, this might be a revenue center. So then we put together like a little event menu, came up with some pricing. All right, cool. Then it got so busy that like, that's all he did. So we're like, we got to hire somebody to do this. But we're up to like 80, maybe 85 rehearsal dinners a year now.
That's awesome.
Isn't that
That's
incredible?
awesome.
So
It's
we
crazy.
go to these wedding shows. Everybody's talking about weddings. And we're over in the corner asking, where are you booking your rehearsal dinner? They're like, oh God, I never, Mom, what are we, where are we doing our, and then we're like, here you go. Here's our card. We specialize in this.
And it keeps it fun.
It keeps it fun.
And then
People want to
Rock,
be downtown.
Blue Cross, Ernst & Young, lots of companies downtown use this. It's almost to the point now where it's 25-30% of our revenue annually.
And then with the Troy space, it's all 1 floor. But what are kind of your thoughts around that and what you're doing out there, renting it or doing Quizdo or something like that? What are kind of your thoughts with the Troy space?
Easy. We just got word from the city that we've been approved. It's not official, but it's official that we can.
I speak Tony, so I know
Yeah.
what that means.
Right.
Yeah.
Pseudo official?
We haven't gotten
Yeah.
a letter yet,
Yeah.
but it's done.
Handshake agreement.
With-
Yeah.
That we can close in our patio temporarily and heat it with the temporary walls, if you will. And that will allow us to do it. Because we just had a woman come in for lunch yesterday. She's like, I want to be outside with my construction team. I said, okay, awesome. I said, it's cold out there, but let's go out there. She's like, yeah, we're going to get rowdy. I said, cool, but it's going to be cold. I said, I don't think it's going to be done by the 15th, but maybe. She's like, well, can we go inside? I said, sure. People want to be outside. So we will now be able to offer that where if we're inside currently, we can't because we only can seat 69, 68, 70 butts in a seat in the inside portion of Troy. And if you book an event there, it kind of takes up the whole vibe. But the patio is large enough to do that in the springtime. And now that we can do it in the winter, we can actually turn Jenna loose, if you will.
I think this is the challenge as well. We've been downtown for 15 years, 18 years. And now going uptown, it's different. And I think that's the challenging part for Tony and I is to try and figure out how do we replicate the vibrancy that we have downtown in 22 miles up the road and see if we can do that. So Quizzo just started last Wednesday. So Wednesday nights with them. Brunch starts in a few weeks. We don't do brunch downtown, so that'll be new for us. Nice challenge. And then just weekend nightlife business of creating that bar scene where you can come in after you just went to dinner. You can stop here at our place and have a drink or two before you go home. Is something that just takes time and happens organically. But we're going to try and force the issue a little bit here by doing a late night happy hour that we just started last week. Goes from 10 to 12. Things like that, you got to get creative with, and you have to know the surrounding area. And it's a challenge.
There's a real dearth of brunch up there. Randy and I were in the car on our way up there, and we pull off, and we've been there before, and I love our listeners in Troy, but I was like, I am not in Kansas anymore.
Oh, God, what are you going to say? Okay. All right. No, it's different. It's very, very different. Yeah. Yep. And I think it just takes time to figure it out, and you just keep throwing stuff out there, see what works, and then try and replicate that as best you can without it being redundant over time. And I think that's where, again, having good food, good service, approachable menu, online ordering is 10 times what it is in Troy and what it is downtown.
Really?
Oh my God.
Fascinating.
Yeah. The pickup and delivery is pretty incredible. I mean, we average $100 a week downtown in pickup and delivery. We're at about $600 to $800 a week. And we don't we're not a delivery and pickup type place. Like we're not Wingstop, it's not that type
Right,
of
like
joint.
if I call in and
I prefer you to come in.
right, but I mean, you're also
Yeah.
not going to turn down the dollars if I'm like, hey man, I just need to do carry out. I got to get back
Turns
to the
out we
office.
like
Easy.
money.
True. I mean, we switched point of sale providers to allow that to be more fluid.
Yeah.
There was too much static with our last provider. So
Yeah.
now we moved to this provider and it's Apple Pay. Add your card, boom, Apple Pay, double clicks, eyeballs. I mean, it's done. And you pick it up in 32 minutes.
Okay, did you know that in 2005 you'd be paying with your eyeballs?
Isn't it crazy? And this pisses him off so bad. This is like his bugaboo in life, right? Where it used to be, I don't know, 50-50 back in 2005, maybe 40-60 cash versus credit card. Now it's 95%. You go like, oh, you guys own a cash business. You must be sleeping on lumpy mattresses. No, dude, like it's 95% credit card.
Even the dive bars take credit cards nowadays.
Lafayette. Once Lafayette took credit
none
card,
of these millennials, they don't carry money. Like, I don't even know what money is. Like, what is
And see, if I don't leave the house with a 20 in cash, I feel insecure because I'm like, what if my car breaks down? What if I have to take the bus somewhere?
yeah.
I'm loaded for bear just in case. Like,
What if the credit card gods don't smile on me and I still want to get something and some shop's thing's broken? Like that is ingrained in me, but younger generation, and not that much younger, like just a few years younger than me, does not think that way.
Once Lafayette Coney Island started taking credit card, my complaining of this almost stopped. They were the last person on the island. Yeah.
Coney Island?
The Coney Island.
Lafayette.
And they
Like
finally just gave up. And they said, all right, we'll take credit cards, I guess. And after that, I stopped.
You know the vibe over there. I'll take credit cards, I guess. Right? Because that's the vibe of those places.
Cash preferred. They have a sign. They write it in crayon, right at the thing.
There are places that are doing discounts for people that pay cash.
Well, yeah, 'cause of
there's
all
a
the
cash
fees.
price and a credit card price on the check that you
Gas
get.
station.
How much in percent? I mean, you don't have to be exact, but like about how much is the difference there? How much does that add onto your bill?
It's a nickel every time you swipe the card, and then it's between 2 and 3.5%, depending on who your credit card processor is and what card they use. But everybody that goes on a trip for free and they get points and they use points, they can thank your local small business for helping them pay for that.
Because it comes out of you
Because the
guys.
credit card companies do not absorb that cost. Now I'm getting on a soapbox. See, now you got me started, dude.
Well, I don't think that's the
Here
word
we
for
go.
it, quite
No,
frankly.
now you get me started. But all the points and all the free stuff you get with the credit cards,
So how does that come
all
out
the
of you?
small businesses with the fees that they charge us.
Do you have any idea what?
Yeah.
The
all the fees.
I don't have any. That's why I'm literally
it's
asking.
so
this.
painful that I know this is that's the root of why he's pissed off. It's
Listen, I didn't want to make you cry in your drink, dude.
The annual
No, I'll never
number
do that.
that we have to pay in fees is pretty gosh dang big, man. Wow.
So if you do, let's just say $1 million a year and you do 95% credit card, you're averaging $6,000 a month. And that's
a person.
That was a cost that didn't exist
Yeah.
maybe 10 years ago.
That's right. You got it.
That's a person.
Now do that and then multiply that by 12. And then, if you do better than $1 million now.
Think of places like the Capitol Grill that's doing 22 million a year and it's all credit card. Think about the fees that they pay.
I'm in the wrong business. I need to start charging fees to people. Become a member, patreon.com/Detroit.
Right. But those interchange companies are thieves.
What are you two most excited about for 2024?
I hope people start, I hope the country as a whole gets back to some sort of routine. We had 100 years of 9 to 5, 5 days a week, Henry Ford. That's gone. Now we need to find the new normal. Like what's the new norm?
I don't think anyone really knows. Some people will say it's Tuesday to Thursday. Some people will
Downtown.
say...
Let's get these Fortune 500 companies in Belize and let's just figure out what's the new. They all get together and say, okay, it's Tuesday through Thursday. And then that's the minimum. And then everybody else can go from there. I don't know. But I hope there's some sort of norm that comes back. I think that will help everybody's psyche and brain. They can start scheduling things in their lives and not work till 8 o'clock and from home in their sweatpants and say, oh my God, it's 8 o'clock.
I do that all the time.
I haven't even eaten yet. You're like, oh my God, go away. So I hope we can find some norm. I'm really looking forward to the NFL draft. I'm really looking forward to opening day this year. I'm really looking forward to one more year away from COVID, and very few people even talk about it much anymore. I hope people start coming back downtown to see how beautiful it is with the Riverwalk, which is now like 3 miles long, goes from Belle Isle to the bridge.
I was at the opening of that bridge section. It's gorgeous. As somebody
This guy voted best Riverwalk.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Riverside Park, Beacon Park, like there's so much to do downtown, and it's nicer than it's been in my lifetime, that at least I can remember. And I hope there's a return to coming downtown for entertainment purposes and getting away from doing everything within 5 miles of your house.
Owen, Tony, Firebird Tavern, thank you so much for spending time with us on Daily Detroit. I appreciate you both.
Cheers.
Thanks
for
so much.
Yeah, appreciate you having us.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. What did you think? Feedback, as always, dailydetroit@gmail.com or 313-789-3211. Remember, if you leave a voicemail, we may play it on the show. With that, I am Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening to Your Daily Detroit. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow.